to another edition of Survive to Thrive with me, Dr. Todd. Hey, we are talking today, I'm going to talk at you about space and time. You know, one of the healthiest things that you can ever do is create some space. Create some space for yourself and time. You know, you get into Einstein's theory of relativity and how space and time has a continuum. It's kind of like these quantum physics kind of gaps that exist. And we know because mathematics can prove some things and we dive in. But bottom line, there's like this space and time is relative to that. And they've tested this, like, for instance, like the speed of light. We know that there is a speed of light. We know that it's consistent. They put light in a vacuum and it does, like, you know, the same type of things no matter where it's at. Anyways, this isn't the point as much as where we're going to go with this. And so my story is that over the last few days, a couple days over the weekend, I get out and I go hunting by myself. And it is kind of a weird thing when you're by yourself because I don't get that quite often. Some of you may, but I don't have that space quite often. So it kind of becomes a little eerie. And then I compound that by basically sleeping out under the stars. And when I sleep out under the stars, it's relaxing, it's quiet, there's no interference of anything. And so you become kind of in this space and time becomes relative. And this is what transpired. It's kind of weird to talk about. But when I was sleeping, there was this basic amount of time that I would normally sleep and feel rested, or if I'd wake up in the middle of the night, it was like, oh my gosh, So I was waking up at 4 o'clock to go on this hunt, right? Each morning at 4 o'clock, the alarm would go off. But here I am I had fallen asleep about 10, not getting a huge amount of sleep, 6 hours. It's only 6 hours, but felt rested. Like I'd wake up at 2 in the morning on a couple of these nights and look at it and be like, oh my gosh, I felt like I slept in. I felt like it was like 6 or 7 in the morning, like I missed my alarm clock. And then I'd fall asleep and get another 2 hours, so waking up at 4, and that 2 hours felt like an eternity. And so Marin and I were talking about this and how time can feel different in different scenarios. All right, and this is the greatest philosophers of all time. We'll get into these types of things, greatest scientists and mathematicians, everything along those lines. But the point is, have you ever been there where you're just like, time flies? You say that, like, usually it's on vacation, right? People complain about, like, at work, they're like, man, I wish time could fly. At work, it's going so slow. And it's funny because it is relative, is it not? I mean, time is 24 hours. If we want to make it, you know, something that has parameters, it's 24 hours in a day. And you have it, I have it. So how does it fly for some and how does it go slow for the others? Well, it doesn't, but it is in this space that you are actually the observer of time. It's kind of a cool concept to think about because you are an observer of time. Time will go. You get to actually be part of it and be an observer of this time. So here I am in this space, created in this space where the chaos was gone and time seemed like to drag on. And not in a negative way. It was just, man, it felt like forever. Like I got to sleep forever. And then I would go hunting and it seemed like there was just, oh my gosh, I'd look at my watch and be like, it's only like 8 o'clock in the morning. I feel like I've had a full day already. And we had so much more time to do certain things. But here's the point. In your chaos, in my chaos, in my busyness, in your busyness on a daily basis, it's very easy to make time something that feels like you don't have enough of. In your busyness, you've come to a conclusion that you don't have enough time. But time is relative. It's relative to how you are seeing it, how you are observing it, and what you're doing with it. You see, when you create space for yourself, time feels and looks different. And what do I mean by space? This is, one, meditating, it's prayer, it's actually doing something for yourself. There's a lot of different ways that we've talked about in this podcast on how to create space and how to actually do things for yourself. The question is, are you doing them or not? So one of the healthiest things that you could do is actually create some space for yourself. Give yourself permission to have this space to be able to take a different look at time. In your chaos, in your busyness, this space becomes super necessary. Because if you don't, the stress builds up and the body starts to break down. And I've done that. I've done that before. You've done that before. Anybody ever get sick? We like to blame a virus or blame bacteria, but if you look back on it, your sickness is a direct product of you not having enough space, not having enough capacity. And so literally by taking time, this is a weird thing, by taking time for yourself, you can actually gain more time in a day, or what feels like more time in a day, right? Because it's only 24 hours. It's just how you see it. It's how you are observing time. You can get so much more done by creating this space. And here I am hunting, creating this space, not recognizing that by creating that space, I come back and everything looks different and feels different. Like we were on the backyard and I'm like, gosh, like I climbed such huge peaks over the weekend and there was such deep drainages that I'm like, did our house like shrink? Did the hills shrink around it? Because they don't look that big. But I created some space and I created some time for myself to come back and see everything relatively different. So that's the tip and the trick for you today, is a healthy way to create some space so that you actually create more time. And again, not creating more time in the aspects of 24 hours, because we all have that 24 hours, but how you observe that time, where you can feel rested in a shorter amount of sleep, where you can actually get more done in a shorter amount of time, where that day of that chaos that you're just like, I don't have time to work out, I don't have time to eat, becomes actually something that you can plug in. And I know it seems weird, but the more time that you take for yourself in creating this space, the more time becomes like a space within itself, almost like a time warp, in the aspects of you can do so much more and get so much more done. You take everything that you're doing right now and it fits in the amount of time that you have. Only because you get to observe time differently. Is this making sense? It should. It should. And here's what you have to do. You have to go and experience it. Now, again, tips and tricks to actually create that space is to carve out a weekend to do something for yourself, to carve out some time, some space, like date yourself, go out and create a avenue for which you can actually have some time and space and get away from the chaos. Go camping, go sit by a campfire where nobody else is. Not drinking beers with buddies and at the trailer park. It's like getting out and in this space you will find time. In this space you will find time. And that is the 100% tip and trick of the day, is to actually slow down time by creating space. One of the healthiest things that you can do is actually create some space so you can save time. And it works. And you will have a different perspective, guaranteed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I got for you today. But go out and create some space for yourselves and find that you will actually have more time because you observe and you're looking at time differently when you see that space. And go have fun. Read Einstein's theory of space and time and relativity. It might just open your eyes to a whole nother way of looking at space and time. In love and light, trying to bring truths, facts to you daily to help you shift out of this mindset of just surviving into a mindset of thriving up and above. We'll talk to you tomorrow.